Kamala Harris eviscerated Donald Trump. We're back on the Madam President for the People edition of the Thinking Out Loud radio show. Of course, I'm your host, Michael Nimmons. And before we jump into it, those that are watching me on YouTube, I just want to show you guys I got on my Kamala Harris gear. I got on my t-shirt in support of VP Harris for President of the United States. We hope you are enjoying the Madam President for the People edition of the Thinking Out Loud radio show. I know I'm enjoying bringing this episode to you on this week's edition of the Thinking Out Loud radio show. Again, if you guys are enjoying this episode, be sure to subscribe. Take a few minutes wherever you're listening to us from, whatever platform that you are listening to our podcast. Hit that subscribe button. That way, every time a new episode drops, you'll be the first one that's notified. And that applies to our YouTube channel as well. We're just a couple subscribers away from 900 subscribers. So do us a favor, guys, and even subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. We talked in the earlier segment about the debate recap that just happened just a few days ago. We thought we would talk a little bit about that and really share our thoughts about how Kamala Harris eviscerated Donald Trump. And then she made a point when she walked over to shake his hand to properly pronounce her name, because he continues to get it wrong. And he does, of course, he does it on purpose, because just like he said, he didn't care what her ethnicity was. I don't care if she's black or Asian. I don't care what she calls herself. He doesn't care how you pronounce her name. In fact, he thinks it's entertaining to get it wrong. But she shook his hand and said, "Hi, I'm Kamala Harris. And this is who you're going to be debating," basically setting the tone for the debate, took command of the stage and showed him who was really in charge. She did it. She did it, guys. And in this segment, we're going to talk about the Trump versus Harris, Obama versus McCain comparison, because in many respects, I'm really seeing some similarities in the Obama campaign and the Harris campaign the Obama campaign of 2008, when he initially ran for president. And of course, Kamala Harris's campaign of 2024. I even said, I think it was in the last episode, that David Plouffe who was former President Obama's campaign manager, is now Kamala Harris's campaign manager. And that's no coincidence. When you know a winner, what do? You stick with him. You stick with the winner. You stick with the winner. And David Plouffe knows how to win. He has the winning playbook. And what better way to win the White House than to pick the man that did it before? And so she's doing that in selecting him as her campaign manager and director. And I think that was a great choice to make. But now that President Biden has exited the race and VP Harris is at the top of the ticket, this year's race for president is in some ways reminiscent of what happened when President Obama ran against John McCain in 2008. Now I'm moving ahead in his run to after the primary in August of 2008 to where they were headed towards the general election when he was going up against John McCain after he had become the official Democratic nominee and John McCain had become the official Republican nominee. The crowd sizes that Harris has in many ways looks eerily similar to former President Obama's, and Trump crowd sizes are much smaller, much like former Senator John McCain. We're looking at those crowd sizes. Obama, he was packing out stadiums. And I remember at the end of the Democratic National Convention, or the actual day, I think it was that Thursday, when he accepted the nomination, and he did it in Arizona. And I think he filled that stadium there it was either Denver, Colorado or Arizona. I think it might have been Denver. Might have been Denver. It might have been Denver. I think it was Denver in Mile High Stadium. 80 something thousand people packed that stadium to watch the first African American male accept the Democratic nomination for president of the United States. A truly historic moment in our nation's history. And it was these types of crowds that really set the stage for his presidency. It was amazing. And you could see the sharp contrast between the two when you looked at John McCain could barely feel a banquet hall of supporters, and Obama was filling up stadiums just for people just to hear him speak and just for people to get a snapshot of history. That's just how significant it was for them just to be in the same room, in the same space as this young African-American man running for the highest office in this nation. And so you saw that there, the contrast between Obama and McCain, and you see it is eerily similar between Harris and Trump. I saw a TikTok video where someone was taking a video of a Trump rally before it started, and the event space, I think it only held between 2,000 to 3,000 people, and it was barely full. It was a lot of empty seats. It hadn't even started yet. But yeah, he is touting thousands of supporters at these events. And then they showed a video of one of Harris's rallies in North Carolina, and the stadium was jam-packed to capacity just to witness history. And so we know who the people are really behind. Trump has a niche following. This is not mainstream America that's following Donald Trump. This is a niche following of neo-Nazi white Americans who are trying to, instead of make America great again, basically take America back again and take America in the wrong direction. And it's not going to happen. Just like she said, we're not going backwards. We are moving forward. We are moving forward. The fundraising that both the Obama and McCain campaign and the Harris and the Trump campaign conducted are also eerily similar. Harris brought in over $300 million back in August, and Trump did about half of that. And it was Obama and his campaign when he ran back in 2008 that really set the standard for presidential races, because he raised up almost $1 billion when he ran back in 2008. And that became the standard for presidential politics. And so when you see candidates like Harris raising $300 million in a month's time, you know what they say? If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. And here it is, guys. When you see a candidate that's bringing in that kind of money, it becomes abundantly clear who's going to win. It becomes abundantly clear because you have the ground game intact. You have a grassroots organization in place, and you have the money to go places that your opponent cannot go. You have the finances and the wherewithal to do things in your campaign that your opponent cannot do. And she is doing that. She is trumping him when it comes to money. And yes, pun intended. Yes, all puns intended. She is trumping him when it comes to fundraising. And that to me is another telltale sign that he's going to lose in November. The money is just not there for him. It's not. And he sees that. He knows that. And the people supporting him in his campaign know that as well. Another interesting Obama comparison is the one that I mentioned earlier on how the Harris campaign is not projecting itself as the first woman president or even the first Black and Asian Pacific to run for president. It's interesting that they are running for president for all people. And that is very important. Their campaign is inclusive and not exclusive. It's not excluding anyone, but it's including everyone. Very important. And that, I believe, is the winning recipe in presidential politics. And it's a very simple equation. When you include everybody in your vision, when you include everybody in your plan, it's much easier to win their votes and their support. Why? Because they're included. You're talking about them. They're included in your vision. They're included in your agenda. They're included in the commercials. They're included in your rallies. It's about the people, and it's not about you. And it's very simple. But the people on the other side of the aisle don't get that. The dummy on the other side of the aisle doesn't get that. Why? Because it's all about him. It's all about it's all about what has been, how he's been wronged, and what's been done to him, and what he's not doing, and what he has done. It's all about him, and he's going to lose with that concept in mind. And I'm sure those reasonable thinking Republicans behind the scenes are saying the same things to him, but he's not listening. He's not listening to them. He is not listening. So when you are inviting voters to join your campaign because the focus of your presidency is going to be on the people, then this is a campaign that most Americans can get behind and get on board with, regardless of party. Regardless of party. You see that Republicans joining Vice President Harris's campaign, and they're doing it going back to the convention in August. You had some Republicans speaking during the convention, and they're doing so to save our democracy. They're saying that our democracy is at stake and something needs to be done. It's not enough. They're doing it in order to save our democracy. They believe that our democracy needs to be saved and something needs to be done. And they feel like it's not enough for us to just say that we're not going to vote for Trump, but we have got to do something more. We've got to say we're going to vote for Kamala Harris. And in doing so, it doesn't make us any less of a Republican, but it makes us an American. It makes us a democratic citizen of this country. And that's what they are. That's what is most important. That's what's more important in this moment than being a Republican. You can vote for whoever you want to in the down ballot races, but in this particular case, the better candidate is Kamala Harris. There is no question about it. She is ready to be president on day one. She is ready to be president right now. As vice president, she has done more for this country, dare I say, than Donald Trump did when he was president 4 years ago. It's amazing. No, not 4 years ago, but 7 years ago, thereabout. So it is not wrong for a Republican to decide to vote for Kamala Harris, because again, they're doing so in order to save our democracy. Republicans are joining the Harris campaign because they believe democracy is at stake. They're saying Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy. And you have Republicans like Congresswoman Liz Cheney and former Vice President Dick Cheney, who are both saying they're not voting for Trump, but they're coming out in support of Kamala Harris. And those are two very notable Republicans that are, I believe, paving the way for other notable Republicans to do the same. We haven't yet heard from former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice and even five-star General Colin Powell. We haven't heard yet from former five-star General Colin Powell and even former President George Bush. these individuals have not yet come out, but I believe they will, because any reasonable thinking person, and that's the point there, reasonable thinking person, because if you watch the debate and it was not crystal clear to you the difference between the two candidates, something is really wrong with you. If you couldn't see that one candidate was ready to be president and the other candidate didn't deserve to be standing on the stage with their opponent, then something is really wrong with you. But it was very clear to me, and I'm sure it was very clear to every one of you that are listening under the sound of my voice. I hope you guys are enjoying this edition of the Thinking Out Loud radio show, Madam President for the People. We're going to talk more about this and about Vice President Harris on the other side of the break. It's the Thinking Out Loud radio show. We'll be right back.